Good afternoon, folks. This is your friend. This is your brother. This is Sengeh Ciudadano del Mundo, transmitting live from Houston, Texas. Folks, happy Tuesday. I hope we will find time to do our exercise because, as always, exercise is good for our health. I haven't done mine yet, folks, but before the day ends, I'll be out there jogging and enjoying the outdoors and making the best of this beautiful, beautiful weather in Houston, Texas. So, folks, I enjoin you guys to do the same. If you haven't done so this morning, you will find time to do so this evening, at least here in Houston, Texas. That could be in some of the places this night or tomorrow morning. But folks, once again, happy Tuesday. And this is your brother, this is your friend. This is Sengeh Ciudadano del Mundo, live from Houston, Texas. Folks, we're living in very interesting times, folks. But I want to first start with the ongoing peace initiative for Gaza and Palestine. Folks, I would once again want to appreciate the resolve, the bravery of the people of Gaza and Palestine for withstanding 2 years of horror, 2 years of barbarism, 2 years of genocide, folks, and still come out strong on the other side. Their bravery, their valiancy, their resolve is an inspiration for most of us, and that is why we will continue to raise our voices, because victory is still far away, and that will only come when the innocent and deserving people of Gaza and Palestine have self-autonomy and, by extension, independence. And so, folks, the battle has just begun. Let us don't relent. Let us don't relent, folks. And I'm definitely going to once again commend the courage of President Donald Trump. As it's always said, give praise where praise is due. It was courageous of him to at least start the peace process. But folks, we all know the character that we're dealing with in the person of the genocidal Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, folks. Even as we're making this video, folks, the Israeli genocidal war machine and its government is up to tricks and games in Gaza and in Palestine, and therefore we should remain vigilant, because, like I mentioned in another instance, the genocidal Prime Minister of Israel, for him, perpetual war and chaos is what will guarantee the survival of Israel. That's his point of view. But I'm pretty sure majority of Jews in and out of Israel know that there are other paths that is devoid of chaos and genocide, and that is the true path of peace. And so, folks, to all those Jews out there, lovers of peace, let us continue to raise our voices. Let us continue to raise our voices, folks, so that peace, and only true peace, will eventually take root in Palestine, in Gaza, and for that matter, in Israel. And so, folks, let us remain vigilant, because, like I said, the battle is still not won. But we take respite in the fact that the guns are silent, and in memory of the butchered babies, in memory of the bombarded children who lost their lives, and for those who did not lose their lives, have remained maimed for the rest of their lives. And in memory of those women that were decimated piece by piece, let us continue the fight. Let us continue to raise our voices. Let us continue the militancy until victory is eventually attained. And also, folks, I will continue to raise the issue of Cuba. Cuba is going through untold suffering, folks. But thank God for the resolve of the Cubans. In spite of everything they're going through, they wake up every morning happy as ever and determined to make function what they know as a country. And folks, it is sad that we're not hearing many more voices on the subject of Cuba. And most especially, like I've said in other videos, I am gravely disappointed by the silence of Africa on this question. Africa as a bloc, together with some other blocs in the world, could have brought this injustice to an end long time ago. But for the cowardice of those we call leaders in Africa, they have left the innocent people of Cuba to themselves. And I'm pretty sure history will not kindly judge those of our leaders in Africa who have just remained silent over the Cuban issue. Because, folks, for those of you who know, and I'm pretty sure most of you out there know what Cuba has done for the African continent. You all know what Cuba has done for the African continent, folks, and what Cuba continues to do for the African continent. But it is shameless and shameful that our leaders have continued to be silent on the issue of Cuba. Some of them might say, yes, we're doing it diplomatically. We're doing it behind the scenes. Well, it has not produced any result. So it is high time you stop hiding behind the scenes. It is high time you stop hiding behind the language of diplomacy and come forth to help the people of Cuba that have helped Africa so much in spite of its meager and limited resources. They continue to help Africa, folks. But we will continue to raise our voices so that the United States understands, so that Washington understands that the embargo against Cuba, and I have said it in some other instances, can even constitute crimes against humanity. But it is very easy, folks. The United States government can simply just say, well, we're going to lift the embargo. Because the point they're trying to put across, folks, is not going to work. You cannot punish a government at the expense of its citizens, innocent citizens, folks. And the government you're trying to punish, you're never going to be able to punish the Cuban government to the point of submission. That's not going to happen, folks. And so why not change course? Why not change course, folks? But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because the tide is moving towards those of us who are longing for this embargo to be lifted, moving away from those that want to maintain the embargo, folks. and we will continue to raise our voices. And also, folks, just coming back to Africa, but this time around reminding us of what Morocco is doing to the Sahrawi people. Morocco continues to occupy Western Sahara, and it has done so for decades. There again, folks, I'll come back to the African continent. Why is it that Africa, for the most part, has remained silent on the issue of Western Sahara? Why, folks? Because Morocco has used money to buy some of our so-called leaders to keep quiet over the Western Sahara issue. Some of them, a few politicians on the continent here and there will mention Western Sahara, but it is not the majority of the voices that need to be raised so that Morocco will understand that in this 21st century, colonization in whatever shape or form is unacceptable, folks. And so I would encourage our leaders and even our citizens of the African continent to raise their voices up, folks, because colonization, wherever it's coming from, is unacceptable, folks. And Morocco needs to understand that. Morocco needs to understand that the people of Sahrawi will eventually be victorious. They will eventually be victorious, folks, because some of us and thousands and millions of you out there, we will continue to raise our voices until that comes to pass. So, folks, it is on these three notes that I start my video today. But I'm going to focus a little bit on what is going on in our country, in the United States of America, folks. So we know that the drama in the United States politics is usual. And so it is playing out currently with the government shutdown that has happened for the last 2 weeks now. Well, we're used to that, and that is why I'm pretty sure most Americans, save for those that actually work for the government, are not even paying much attention to the drama, the theater that we're usually accustomed to. That is to say, the brinkmanship of one party against the other. It's like they're telling the electorate, trying to show who will come out of this unscathed. Well, wherein you have true politicians who really care about the people, this is not about them coming out unscathed. They should think about those people that are losing income, that are failing to put bread on the table just because of their drama and theatrics. But folks, that's the American politics most of you hear about. It's one that is very interesting, folks, that the country can be held hostage by these two brothers of the same feather. They used to say birds of the same feather, but these are actually brothers of the same feather. So, folks, because they are not flying, so that is why I say they are brothers of the same feather. Where you fly, things can be different, but they don't fly. They just stay in their respective corners, showing brinkmanship, putting innocent lives at risk, making the government not functional. But folks, that's the American politics, and probably very soon one side will give up, but then damage would have been caused. But folks, also interesting happening is the mayoral elections that will be happening in 3 weeks' time, and history is almost about to be made. Well, it's going to be the first time that not only somebody not born in the United States, not only a Muslim, but a 33-year-old person in the name of Zohran Mamdani will become the next mayor of New York, folks. And I don't want to go into the politics because that is really not relevant. The most important thing is that one of the most important cities in the world will have a young mayor, an immigrant, someone not born in the United States, but has made so much of an impact that New Yorkers, folks, New Yorkers are ready to give him their vote to become the next mayor of, like I said, one of, if not the most important city in the world. And so, in spite of all the drama that is going on in Washington, folks, at least we can look forward to something that is historic about to happen. And I'm pretty sure New Yorkers did not take this election lightly. And when they vote in Zohran Mamdani, they would have made history in their only two way. And so, folks, we look forward to the November 4th elections. But also, folks, ahead of all of that, we will be looking forward to the politicking that will take place, because we've been told that our President Donald Trump is vehemently opposed to Zohran Mamdani, and for reasons, of course, that we will all know. And there are still possibilities that things can happen, things can go wrong. But I'm pretty sure that the citizens and people of New York are ready for a change. And so, from a distance, we wish them well, and we hope that everything goes on as planned, and that come November 4th, and the day that will succeed November 4th, New York will be a new place under a new era. So go for it, New York. But folks, generally, politics today in the United States of America is one that I can describe as very, very sad. Sad in the sense that, folks, both the Democrats and the Republicans do not actually understand that their main purpose in office is to govern. And governing means to look into the daily problems of the citizens of this country that are working so hard. There are people that have 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, because it's almost impossible, and for many, really impossible, to live on one job, folks, in the United States of America in this 21st century. And that is why I might not consider this a distraction, but as we are talking about survival, I commend the recent efforts of some of my former colleagues that were demonstrating at their workplace so that their wages will be considered for an increase, because they really cannot live on the wages that they are currently earning. And so, saludos a mi gente de Hilton Americas. Yo sé que ustedes han luchado no solamente para ustedes, pero para todas que trabajan allá y tal vez en otros lugares. Entonces, felicidades, felicidades, felicidades. Y muchas gracias por el trabajo que ustedes han hecho. Ustedes son gentes valientes, son gentes bravas, y que Dios les bendiga. So folks, this is the situation today in the United States of America. But we will take respite in the fact that there are signs that things will change, and for the better. But yes, the politicians in the United States today are really only thinking about themselves. And folks, this is not a Republican or Democrat issue, because I strongly believe, and this is my opinion, but I strongly hold on to that opinion, folks, that the Republicans and the Democrats, they are just one coin with two different sides, folks. Yes, the Democrats, they will talk and talk and talk. But when it comes to actually implementing programs that they themselves preach, that's where it's always something else. It's always the interest of their donors. It's always the interest of those super PACs. It's not the interest of the average person. And so really, we just go out there to vote because we have to. It's a civic responsibility. It's a civic responsibility, folks. But it is not because our politicians are really listening to what we're telling them. And so, when we hear about politicians like Zohran Mamdani, when we hear politicians like Bernie Sanders, when we hear politicians like Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, it gives this country some hope that when given the opportunity, and that is to say when they try, when they fight, and when they are heard by America, the kind of changes, the kind of drastic changes that this country needs, I would lend a phrase, the kind of radical inclusion that this country needs, that's not going to come with the current politicians we have, folks. We need politicians like the three I just called to make those kinds of radical inclusion, to borrow from our chief minister. The language of radical inclusion, folks, we need to bring it to the United States, because if we're just going to look up to these two political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, then the kind of change and radical inclusion that is needed in the world, that's not going to happen. And so, folks, I just wanted to bring some of these issues up. But yes, very excited and look forward to our next mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani. But folks, to end this video, let us don't forget the people of Palestine. Let us continue to raise our voices, folks. Let us continue to raise our voices, because the battle has just begun. The battle has just begun, folks. But on a light note, folks, I hope we don't forget our exercise, because as always, exercise is always good for our health. Okay, folks? Happy Tuesday. Ciao.